Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Gutierrez. I'm a fraud ops analyst, and so today I'm here to explain how I do what I do. So please put your LinkedIn in the chat. I will go back and personally add everyone on LinkedIn. I also have a personalized Gmail that you can email me after this. So let's get started. So my session today is titled "The Strategic Pivot: Recruiter to Fraud Ops Analyst." Um, Somebody came up with this, so kudos to whoever came up with this. It's mastering the art of the pivot. Learn to navigate career leaps, motherhood, and high stake leadership with purpose and power. So, a little bit about me. I'm Mexican American. I'm a Latina. I was raised in a traditional, loving and Mexican family where my family focused on faith, family, and education. Those were essential for those of you that know. We go to misa every Sunday. It was best in our best clothes. Education was a priority. So, it was basically come home from school and eat dinner and then basically straight to homework. And then family was family birthday parties on the weekends. And now that I have my own family, that things have changed, which is pretty amazing to kind of see the roots that I have carried over to my own. Um, Personal identity: I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a wife, and I'm a mama of two. I'm a fraud ops lead for a fintech in the Bay Area, so in Palo Alto. If you're in Palo Alto or the Bay Area, please let me know. I graduated from UC Berkeley, Chabot College, and if there's any Puentistas out there, represent. I'm also, this is a role that I really enjoy. I'm also a member and secretary of the advisory committee to the CEO on the National Cyber Forensic Training Alliance. For short, it's called the NCFTA. They basically help to identify and mitigate cybercrime globally by working with industry, law enforcement, and academia. Some of those in the industry could be IT, energy, automotive, just to name a few, as well as bank and the brokerage institutions. So this is probably going to be my favorite part because I think when you go into college, if there's any college students in here, you're probably wondering, what am I going to major in college? What's life after college? So I'm going to kind of show you what I've gone through and how I came to where I'm at. So I went to Chabot College. I'm a transfer student. And basically, I went through a program, as people know, the Puente program. If you don't know, please look it up if you're in college. I highly recommend it. While I was a college student and maintaining honors, I also interned and served as a field representative for the California State Assembly. One thing I want to call out is oftentimes, sometimes, oftentimes, you're going to have to do some volunteer work, some type of internship to build your career. So if you're lucky, you might get a paid internship right off the bat. If not, don't worry about it. The pay will come. And I also transferred over, as I mentioned before, from community college to UC Berkeley. Transferring and finding that major was very difficult because intentionally I wanted to be pre-law. I had set my mind, I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be pre-law. But what actually happened was I went into UC Berkeley, wanted to major in rhetoric, which is a study of communication and persuasion, realized I didn't like it. And for those that are currently in the UC system, you have imposter syndrome, you're not getting the grades that you want. Hang in there, stay focused, keep studying. You will see the results when you apply yourself and when you take the time to just reflect. So, my first semester at UC Berkeley, I didn't do my best. I was used to getting high honors and A pluses and 4.0s at, or excuse me, not A places, A's at Chabot College. And when I went to major at UC Berkeley in rhetoric, I got two C pluses my first semester. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't belong here. What am I doing? I can't do this. And so I took some time off from UC Berkeley for a semester. I told my mom, I'm dropping out. I'm done. And my mom's like, Jessica, you're not putting that language in your head. You are taking time off to reflect, to find yourself, to find your purpose. And so I volunteered at a nonprofit in San Francisco called La Casa de las Madres. And working there with families, specifically mothers and children that had been in domestic violence situations, hearing their stories and providing them with the resources that they need, from toiletries to just taking care of their kids while they were talking to a support system there, made me realize those two C pluses was not rock bottom. This was nothing in comparison. And it gave me the much needed reality check to find my center and find my purpose. Um, so I ended up getting a call from one of my aunts, and she was like, "Jessica, have you gone to UC Berkeley?" And I was like, "No, like, I don't know if you know, I'm taking some time off." She was like, "You need to come back." And I was like, "Why?" She was like, "You need to come back. You're on a banner in front of the Valley Life Science Building." I was like, "What?" I remember taking a picture during orientation, and they said, out of a handful of students, thousands of students, only a handful are going to be selected to be on a banner. Unfortunately, I can't find the picture right now, so that's of someone else. But the quote that I had on the banner was "out of hibernation and ready to explore." And that was actually a quote that I came up with. My brother, my kudos to my brother for coming up with that. But it was true. It was the universe. It was faith. It was God telling me, "You belong at Berkeley. Get your butt here at UC Berkeley. You're going to finish, and you're going to move forward in this life with this difficult challenge that I once thought I had." So I went back with that mindset, took a picture with the banner, obviously, went back with that mindset, that fresh perspective, that humility, that humbleness and clarity. And I changed my major to American Studies with a focus in law, policy, and minority identity. Within that interdisciplinary focus, I was able to take classes in legal studies, sociology, English. And in fact, I loved and I was passionate about it so much that I ended up getting 4.0s. And I ended up writing a 35-page thesis on Mexican American women and the way they came to the United States, became Americanized through the culture, learned how to raise their kids the American way. And it gave me a foundation of the type of person I wanted to be, the type of mom that I wanted to be, while still maintaining the core root of who I am, a Mexican American and Latina. So when you have that moment, "I can't do it, I'm feeling challenged," stop, reflect, take a deep breath, and reassess. So that was one of the first kind of awakenings during my college life. Once I had that college undergraduate change in terms of major, I found myself. I was ready to go. I was a researcher. I applied myself to be a researcher and administrative assistant at Berkeley's law school. As you can see in the picture on the right, I helped to publish a legal textbook for the Reproductive Rights and Justice Center. I also helped to publish a virtual library. I became a student instructor, so I taught an undergraduate class on time management, productivity. I also was super blessed to travel abroad and be in Spain for 3 months, and living abroad was very humbling and awakening to what's outside of the US. As you can see in the picture, that's the Alhambra. That was the view that I got every morning when I woke up for 3 months. Not gonna lie, the last month I started to get homesick and I was like, "I'm ready to go back to the USA." I also served in a mentorship and advisory capacity. I served as a starting point mentor for students interested in transitioning from community college to UC Berkeley, and successfully helped people get into UC Berkeley. I served on the Vice Chancellor's Student Advisory Committee, where I was, I believe, one of 12 or maybe one of 15 that represented transfer students. So those are some experiences that I have in my college life. If you're in college or you recently are new to the workforce, you might have a couple questions. You might have some questions that aren't specifically related to undergrad. But I'm constantly asking myself, who am I? What is my purpose? You're going to also have in life these societal pressures. Can I have it all? Can I have a full time job, marriage, and kids? Oh, my biological clock's ticking. My tias, my abuelas, everyone's asking me, when are you going to get married? When are you going to have those kids? And then you're going to also have these future kind of questions and expectations for yourself. Is having a job, a husband, and kids manageable? How's labor? What is postpartum like? What will I have and gain? But more importantly, what will I have to sacrifice? And then the biggest question, how am I going to prioritize it? The reason I bring these questions up is because I had all those questions basically from college to post college, and now they've changed. These aren't necessarily the questions that I have now. They change as you progress in your future, both personally and professionally. So here I want to provide that answer and kind of walk you through my career and pivot timeline. So while I was in undergrad, I basically worked, as I mentioned prior, for the California State Assembly. I was an intern, volunteer work, and then I got a paid part-time position as a field representative. It was amazing there because I was able to work on community events. I was able to represent the assembly member in speaking engagements on her behalf. And so that really brought me to a new level of public speaking that I had never had. I remember one event I was speaking to over 1,000 people, and I remember my mom being like, "You should have said this, not that." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So that was a great experience. The While I was also doing that, I my first big pivot, as I mentioned before, was being an undergraduate and trying to figure out my major, trying to find myself. But once I found myself, I was able to move forward with Berkeley Law's uh, reproductive work for the virtual library and also for the casebook. One thing I do want to call out, if you're a student or you're studying or you're a full time employee, you can definitely balance things. It's doable. You just have to be very structured with your time, your boundaries, and let the people know that are in your family. This is what I'm going through. Like, check on me if I need support. Um, be very structured and intentional about what you do. After that, I graduated from UC Berkeley with my degree in American Studies and Law Policy and Minority Identity. Through this time, still pre-law, I want to be pre-law. So as you can see, everything highlighted in red was me still with the mindset of I'm pre-law. I immediately joined Sidley Austin, an amazing law firm in San Francisco, and I was a project assistant for their global finance team. In that role, I basically helped with editing, proofreading several hundreds of legal documents, printing those out, getting them ready for the attorneys and the partners. And I will say what it taught me, it was very transactional work within this. It was very transactional in this financial space while at a law firm. But to me, it was a little dry. I wasn't allowed to bring the energy, the passion for it. I was more interested in the title. I was more interested in the company, especially because at the time the Obamas had worked there, and that's where they met in the Chicago office. So that when I say listen to your gut, assess where you're at, reflect. I think if I would have stopped looking back, I would have probably asked myself, why am I joining this company? Is this for me? During the interview process, I remember thinking to myself, this is a great company, this is a great role, but something just didn't resonate, and I didn't listen to my inner self. The second pivot that I had was when I joined a company called Lippincott. They're a global consultancy that focuses on marketing, brand strategy, and kind of serving the clients that need rebranding. And so there I worked from 2015 to 2016. I really enjoyed that role because that taught me the importance of branding. What is your brand? How are you presenting it to others? How do people kind of apply it to their lives? Some of the companies that they've worked with that's listed publicly on their website are Southwest, Taco Bell. There was another one, Southwest, Taco Bell. I'm totally blanking on the other one. And so for that role, I helped support three senior partners. I did domestic, international travel, their expenses. What that role taught me was the importance of accessibility. Yes, CEOs, executives, partners, directors, they're just like us. Don't look at them for their title. Look at them as human beings. And I think that is one of the key point takeaways is they're just like us. Don't worry about the title. They want to support you. They want to help you. After that, I still had the itch bug for studying for the LSAT, and I decided I want to do part-time administrative work. So I left the company because unfortunately that was a full-time role. So I left that company and I ended up going to Innovations PSI. And there I served as an administrative assistant, a receptionist. I was doing part-time work and studying for the LSAT, and I took the exam. One thing I want to call out about this pivot is I listened to myself. I was studying for that LSAT through Blueprint, and I was like, okay, got class. I got to read the material. I got to take another exam. I got to take another practice exam. And I just thought to myself, I don't like this. Why am I doing this? And I kept finding reasons to not study. Oh, I have this party to go to for my grandparents. Oh, I have to do chores. Oh, I have this. And I was like, if I'm making excuses, this isn't for me. Do I really want to spend thousands of dollars doing this for the next 3 years just because I like the title? And I think in making that decision, reflecting on the work, or I would say the lack of work that I was putting towards that, I realized this isn't something I want to do. Let's try something else. So while I was working at Innovations, my coworker got an email from Signature Consultants. They were an agency. I don't know if they still partner with Google, but they were an agency at the time that worked and hired contractors to work at Google. She recommended me. I went through the interview process, and I became a recruiting coordinator at Google. So I basically helped to schedule thousands and thousands, I would say thousands of technical phone screen and hiring manager calls. And it's sorry, I lost my train of thought. So I scheduled hundreds, not thousands, sorry. I scheduled hundreds of technical calls, and I would say hundreds of on-site interviews. And basically what this taught me is recruiting at Google has a very structured process. You basically are going in and they are looking for a couple things. What is the role you're applying for? What is your analytical thinking, your general cognitive ability? What is your personality? They call Googliness. And what leadership skills do you bring to the table? If you can have those and apply those, whether it's at Google or any other job, you're going to be successful because you have a complete structure for your interview process from beginning to end. So while there, I served as my last role there was a technical recruiter for the hardware operations team. And I had to teach myself how to speak coding language, how to understand Linux, how to articulate the interview process. I'm forever grateful for that experience because that is slowly what helped me to get into the technical field. From there, I ended up joining my current company and I joined as a technical recruiter. One thing I want to call out is when I applied for the job, I actually applied for a more junior role. And the manager at the time was like, Jessica, why are you applying to this junior role? You're more senior than that. Like, I'm going to bump you up to the next level. And the reason I say that is because sometimes we have imposter syndrome. And as a result, we're not understanding, leveling, putting our full potential out there. And so other times there's good people like my manager that said, nope, I'm not going to put you at that level. This is where you need to be. So you'll need champions and allies like that when you have imposter syndrome or you're in doubt. The fifth pivot, which is the current one that I'm in, is I worked my way up from a fraud operations analyst to fraud operations analyst two to fraud operations lead. And on top of that, I'm also a lead for our employee resource group up front. On top of that, I threw in marriage and kids. And then lastly, I added my membership as an advisor to the CEO at the NCFTA. So to go back to the previous slide, as you can see here, all these questions were part of my history. I just wanted them all at once. So just remember, take a step back and the answers will start to kind of unveil themselves as you're going through life. So I've kind of touched on this, so I won't go too much into detail here, but here's the work experience that I had at Sidley Austin. I helped to close multi-million-dollar transactions. I helped with high-stake communications. At Innovations, I helped source candidates. I managed job postings. I helped with payroll. At Lippincott, I helped with complex global travel. I also helped schedule meetings for Fortune 500 companies. I did event planning. And then at Google, I helped to hire over 20 plus hardware engineers and ops manager. And then I became familiar and very comfortable with their sourcing, interview, committee navigation, and offer. So that's a little bit about there. We'll go to where I'm currently at. So while I joined my current company, I basically learned how to hire iOS and Android engineers and managers. Like I mentioned before, I had to understand the language, coding, deploy, Linux, Objective-C and Java, so that when I spoke with the engineers, I sounded like an engineer. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes part of it is faking it till you make it. I also learned to optimize LinkedIn sourcing and personalization. For me, if there's any recruiters or anyone that are sourcing, be intentional with your messages. People get so many emails. They want one that's tailored to them. And in fact, if you tailor it, even if it's taking that extra 1 minute, 10 seconds to put something more personalized, you're going to get a response. As of right now, as in fraud ops, I want to say I did not get to where I'm at without sharing with my VP my weakness. When I was in recruiting, there was a male colleague and he was able to do everything, pivot tables, charts, data analyst. And I was like, I want to be like him. How do I get there? This isn't something that's intuitive. And so I had to do additional work. And so by sharing that it was a weakness that I wanted to make into a strength, my VP at the time saw an opportunity during COVID and said, hey, we're in a pandemic. We don't know how hiring is going to go here at our current company, but also outside in the Bay Area, in the US. We're going to slow down, but we do have a part-time position available for you on the fraud team. Are you interested? And I said yes. And the only reason she knew about my weakness is because I was vulnerable and humble enough to share that with her. Um, so because of her support and helping me and guiding me, I was able to learn on the fraud team how to develop the foundation for our policies and procedures that we use to today. I was able to understand how to analyze and present complex data sets using pivot tables, visual charts, do VLOOKUPs, all the things I was afraid to do. I was able to do it. um, of course, I definitely asked for help along the way as well. And then one of the things I absolutely love about my current job and the company is I'm able to help build tools that engage with our case management system, our internal monitoring alerts. And it's amazing to be able to work with engineers, legal compliance, and understand the complexities from all different teams and the priorities that we all have. So, what does someone in fraud operations do? Um, we basically are looking to identify unusual financial activity, money laundering, financial fraud, financial crimes. Our investigations can be in depth, they can be super quick, takes 2 minutes, it could be a 30-minute investigation. But we're basically looking for ACH, ACAT fraud, wire, debit card fraud, checks. We're looking for first party fraud, identity theft, synthetic fraud, account takeovers. We're constantly looking to create, implement, improve our controls, our policies, and procedures within this work. And then we're also looking at ways to research fraud, analyze it, create detection models with these stakeholders. So, what are some skills that are required to succeed in this role? You want to be someone that's an analytical and critical thinker. You want to be able to identify patterns, think and solve complex problems, think outside of the box. Sometimes it's taken a day to be like, okay, I thought about this yesterday. Let me come back to it in 2 days. And then you'll come back with a fresh perspective. Detail orientation matters in this role. You want to have high quality accuracy because your work's going to be audited and reported at some point. SLA, time management, as I mentioned before, this is very critical because you're basically juggling so many different things within an 8-hour window. And then if you have a family, that window is pretty set as well. One thing I do want to call out in job postings, they may sometimes have like skills that are recommended, skills that are preferred, or have familiarity with it. Do not hold yourself back and not apply for a job because you don't have something. Learn it. And then when you get to the interview, say, I'm learning this, and you can demonstrate that, whether it's through communication or actual coding or a demonstration of it. One other thing I want to call out, constantly find time to make sure you're learning. It's continuous learning. So in this role, I've been able to obtain a business analytics certificate from Udacity and then a Kafka as well, to help further my work. This is the biggest one I will say as well. Be your biggest advocate. I have found in my career that when I'm my biggest advocate, I put good vibes in the universe. I do believe in karma. You have faith, you help others in the community, and you're aware of your weaknesses and strengths. Opportunities are going to present themselves that weren't there before. So, like I said, always be your biggest advocate. Share your weaknesses and your strengths with your managers, with your allies, your champions, your family, and they will help you to kind of move that forward and get out of your headspace. Um, so, things that I want people to remember: be strategic about your pivot. Leverage the transferable skills. Advocate for yourself. Have executive champions. One of the things that, because I was a big advocate for myself, I was able to land on this advisory committee, but I wouldn't be on it if it wasn't for me taking the time to be like, okay, Jessica, you're going to do this. You're going to write your self nomination and we're going to put it in the universe. Good vibes. From that, taking a chance on myself and leaving the imposter syndrome behind and just moving forward, I was able to have a conference speaker session that focused on how government issued IDs have been stolen, altered, and generated to conduct fraud. And this was probably one of my favorite speaking engagements because I was pregnant at the time with my first child, and I just remember being like, "How am I going to present? I got morning sickness. I don't feel good." I powered through it. And then one of the other things too is because I always make time to give back to the community. There was at the time during COVID, there was a new business being developed, and the CEO asked on LinkedIn, "Hey, I need feedback. Is there any recruiters that can give me feedback on this platform?" And I said, "Sure. Here's my thoughts." A couple days later, he was like, "Hey, would you be interested in sharing your insights and your experience with Business Insider?" So I went from being a featured tech recruiter in one article to a second article to a third article. So, like I said, be your biggest advocate and say yes. Okay, now to the part that people are probably wondering about. How the F do I balance all of this? So, have a routine, especially with kids. They need routine, they thrive on routine. They want to know when their bedtime is, they want to know what they're doing tomorrow. That gives them an understanding of kind of time management, efficiency in the day, how much playtime they have, when their bath's going to be. So that's very critical, especially with two kids. If you're living with family, if you have a partner, if you're married, if you're thinking of getting married, share your calendars. It helps so no birthday parties are missed, no gymnastic or sports are missed. It's keeps me sane. Organize by design. This is probably another one that I think a lot of people that might take it for granted because it's something small. Keep your house in order. If your house is in order, your mind's in order. So instead of having your partner be like, "Where's the toothbrush?" You can say, "Okay, the toothbrush is in the bathroom. It's in the middle of the counter." Buy back your time. Outsource chores or tasks to maximize the quality time you have with your family. So we have a backyard, and so over the weekend, my husband was like, "Hey, I want to," one weekend, he was like, "Hey, I want to be able to do X, Y, and Z in the backyard." And I was like, "No, I want to hang out with you and the kids." And I was like, "We're getting a gardener, right?" Or same thing with a house cleaner. I personally hate the bathrooms. I hate scrubbing the toilets, the bathtub. I have someone do that once a month for us. This one is top of mind daily. Fuel your body and your mind. You need to make self-care for your body and your mind because you'll see results in the quality of work, the way you carry yourselves, the way you interact with others. It's very important. And I think if you're thinking about signing up for a race, just sign up for it. Don't think about it. Just sign up for it and then train. And because you have a deadline to look forward to, you're going to make the time. Some things that I've done that I never thought I'd be able to do as a mom is I ran half marathons. I'm going on my second Spartan Deca this weekend. So definitely challenge yourself. Model communication, you're going to want to teach your kids the importance of manners and emotional intelligence. You want to set the standard for the level of communication that they should have at the home, but also outside. So we tell our kids, porfa, gracias. We won't give them what they want until we hear those words. Sometimes it's a tantrum, and we're like, and then they'll say porfa, and I'm like, gracias. Expand your village. This is very important because I feel like as a mom, sometimes I think I can do it all, and the truth is I can't. And when you ask for help, whether it's from your in-laws, care.com, you're building that community of people that will help you move forward because you can't do it alone. And I thank all the people that have helped me in this because I wouldn't be where I'm at without them taking care of our kids at times. The quarterly reset, take a family trip every 3 months or sooner. It's very important to have that family unit and that kind of unwind off the clock time with family. It also creates memories and great photos to look at later. Reclaim the me time, find pockets of peace for yourself during the day. So for me, that's getting a facial without the kids. That's me washing dishes and watching Rookie Blue on Netflix or some type of show. It's very important. It doesn't matter kind of what time of day, just find that pocket of time. Set firm boundaries, communicate that family time means slower response, whether that's text, calls, or emails. For me, if one of my kids gets sick, I'm basically taking either the full day off work, part of the day off work, and I'm working early hours later to take care of my child because that's the priority. Key takeaways, pivot with a purpose. Be ready to shift often. Ensure every move is strategic, intentional, and fueled by passion. Fuel your drive. This is probably my favorite bullet point. Passion is your gas. Without it, you'll stall. With it, you'll have the energy to reach your destination. So I constantly ask myself, how's my gas tank? Where am I? Where am I at? How am I feeling? Do I need two coffees today? Do I need one? Seek the challenge. Growth happens outside of your comfort zone. Push yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally. Everything's intertwined. It will carry over from personal to professional. Um, Trust your gut. As I mentioned before, I wish I would have done this with my first job. I should have relied on my instincts. Um, when you rely on your instincts, it helps you to have better clarity, and it confirms, or I would say reconfirms the decision that you already have, but you just need to put it into fruition. So this applies to career, relationships, and big decisions. Um, Build your pit crew, seek mentors and allies. They are your roadside assistants when you're stuck or you need a voice of reason. And I will say for pit crews, these mentors or allies can be your coworker, your manager, they can be an executive. If you do approach an executive, make sure you're intentional with their time. If you schedule 20 minutes, 30 minutes, make sure you stay within that time. Make sure you have an idea of what you're going to talk about. Thank them for their time and provide follow-up feedback. So for example, if I reach out to a mentor, I'll say, "Hey, how are you doing? How's your family?" And then I'll ask, I need your advice on X, Y, and Z. What do you think? And then I'll execute or implement whatever I was going to do, but I'll follow back. I'll follow up back with them to let them know this is what I ended up doing. This was the outcome. And so, in fact, for this presentation, I actually reached out to two of my mentors, and I was like, just wanted to share. I'm doing this. What's your thoughts? And they were like, "Hey, you got this. Focus on this. You're good to go. Keep us posted." Master your time, use your hours outside to work and learn and bring those new skills back to your craft. That's essential, especially with AI. You want to be on top of AI. You want to make sure that you're understanding what's going on, so you can apply it to the work that you're currently doing or the work that you will be doing. The biggest one, lift as you climb, keep moving forward, but always, always reach back to help others and find their way. If somebody would have told me way back when I was in undergrad, this is where you're going to be now, I would have been like, you're crazy. That's impossible. But it's through the support of all the people, my parents, my family, my brother, like I can go on through a list of all the executives, my managers. I am where I'm at today because of them. And for that, I'm very thankful. So thank you for joining. I created a custom email for today. Please also feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I